say, let's talk about our way. Remember you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home. We'll talk about Huda. We'll talk about our way. Come join us and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home.
It's 8:30 in Nigeria, it's 9:30 in sunny Cairo, and I think it's 11:30 in the Gulf. But you guys know what time it is. Time for Viewers Pulse. Assalamu alaikum, welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Huda TV. And you guys, as always, as promised, we have a special guest here on Viewers Pulse tonight. I hope you guys stay tuned for an exciting episode. I hope you enjoyed the last episode with Sheikh Awesome, and tonight we have another interesting guest all the way from Canada. He's hosting a brand new show for us, Knowledge to Action, and it will be airing soon, inshallah, possibly in the month of Ramadan. And please give Brother Mahdi Jamil Qassas a very warm welcome. And brother, I apologize for my broken Arabic and I can't pronounce the ha and many letters. I apologize, Brother Mahdi. Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate you being here. Brother, this program, like I said, we want to give viewers a little bit of insight about who you are and about the program that you're hosting. So this is your first time on the Huda TV screen. So talk to us about, first of all, how did you come to know Huda TV being from Canada?
Well, a friend of mine lives here in Egypt, and he had kind of did the enabling. He took one side, the other side, and he brought them together.
Okay,
so he
cool.
did some proper networking.
Oh, right. Okay, that's great. So now, okay, you're hosting a show called
Knowledge to Action.
Okay, and that's an interesting program, it seems, taking knowledge to action. Is this your typical kind of traditional program that we see on Huda TV with the sheikh on the couch giving hadith and ayat, or is this kind of a different theme?
No, it is a little unique in the sense that you know, the religious information is part of it, but that's not my my expertise.
Okay.
The expertise that I have is in the field of psychology, specifically community psychology, and some of the stuff that we find in the literature doesn't really apply to Muslims, or it applies but partially. What we're trying to do with the show is we're trying to take that knowledge from original sources, so authentic research and research that's valid, reliable, and transfer that into some action.
Okay. So are you like a Muslim psychologist?
Yeah.
But what is community psychology? The psychology of a nation or a group or a community? Is that what that means?
Well, community psychology is not just the one-on-one psychology and the therapy. It's also how the community impacts the well-being of its members, right? So with Muslims in Canada, any issue that affects the community, it can affect the members. So Islamophobia, for example, when the community is labeled for whatever reason, what ends up happening is it stigmatizes all of the followers. And then you don't know what impact it has on the individual members, right? We, in the media, we usually see the responses, the back and forth, but what I see is the impact it has on the individual members.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to run programs, but also involve ourselves in initiatives that have impact on society.
Okay, great, wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, what are the issues facing or stigmatizing the community in Canada?
Well, for example, I mean, Islamophobia is across the board.
Right.
So, you know, whatever somebody does here, it's just, there's that overgeneralization.
Right.
And actually in the show, we cover some of these faulty schemas, the faulty ways of thinking, overgeneralization being one of them, right?
Sure.
If one person does something, you generalize to the whole group.
Right,
so you'll say, oh, all these people are like that. But we challenge some of that stuff.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, brother, but does it affect the youth more than the adults?
You know, I'd love to say yes, but it all depends. It depends, because the youth are pretty solid in their identity, right? They have their own problems. Usually, for the youth, when it comes to their rights or their reputation, they're choosing their rights.
Right.
Whereas the older generation, they tend to lean towards their reputation over their rights.
That's a great point.
So there's two different problems.
That's a great point, because brother, when I do see youth in the West becoming quote-unquote radicalized, I always thought it's a result of them being stigmatized as being, you know, constantly hearing in the media, the word terrorism, and eventually they take on this label on themselves, and they come to it. Do you think that?
I don't think so. No, I think that what you're referring to is the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So, or that fitting the label. So somebody labels you as sick, you just start to. But there has to be a benefit from that label. So, or the behavior that the person engages in. So, if the person finds no benefit in pretending like they're a radical, then they're not going to. It's not going to sustain itself.
Okay, excellent.
Some kid might act stupid, and you know what I mean, and try to show off or whatever, and they do a lot of things. Teens usually rebel, right? And they're very high risk behaviors as well. But usually, what happens? Radicalization. I mean, you have to acknowledge what radicalization is to begin with, and what are the sources of radicalization, and what do you mean by radical? How are we defining it, right? Just growing a beard and praying 5 times a day, some people will define that as radicalization. So you got to first establish the baseline, and unfortunately there are no studies in Canada and to my knowledge or North America that actually establishes a baseline for Muslim youth, saying that this is the average Muslim youth, therefore this person is extreme and this person is on either end.
Yeah,
right?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
You know, I've heard Dr. Muhammad Salah say many times, we need professionals in every field, not just in the Islamic sciences. So my question is, brother, how did you become involved in psychology? Why did you begin to study psychology? Why did this become to interest you? And because now you're using it, mashallah, to serve Islam and to benefit Muslims, and I think that's wonderful. Because like Dr. Salah always tells me, Brother Malik, we need professionals in all fields, not just Islamic sciences. So how did you become involved and interested in psychology?
Well, I mean, I'd love to tell you, you know what, Brother Malik, when I was 4 years old, I thought of human beings and I wanted to know. No. I got into it by accident. That's simple.
Like as an undergrad or something?
I actually, I started off in computer science.
Oh, okay, totally different. Yeah, the opposite, right. The other side of the brain.
Yeah, exactly. On the other side of the spectrum. But yeah, so I started off with computer science. I was good at it, but I couldn't stand it. Right?
Okay, right.
So I had no passion for it.
Right.
So eventually, when I had problems in life, stress, whatever issues are, usually the things you don't like are the first to be sacrificed, because you got to get rid of something, right? So instead of interacting with computers, I wanted to interact with human beings. So I was nicknamed the Doctor, not because I was smart, or because I spent like 5 or 6 years trying to get my undergrad, but because anytime I get a phone call, I'm up and gone for hours. So I was dealing with people's social problems while I was a computer scientist. Just wasn't cutting it out. Later on, I switched academic programs, eventually took a psychology course, got my first A ever.
MashaAllah.
Didn't stop ever since.
Okay, cool. And what was a lot of the stuff in psychology? It's very interesting. But do you ever find a contradiction of being a practicing Muslim and some of the things you learn and read in psychology books?
It's important to understand that psychology is not one thing. I mean, everybody's a human being. Everybody knows a little bit about human behavior, right? Now, the other thing is there are different fields in psychology, and there's different theories in psychology.
Okay.
There's contradiction within the field of psychology.
Right.
So what a cognitive behavioral therapist does in therapy is going to be perhaps much different than what somebody that's doing psychoanalysis.
Brother, before I'm sorry to interrupt you in the middle of your thought, but we have your brother Hossein Kaskas from Canada for the second time. And it just cut off again. I apologize, brother. He's been on the line for us for about 5 minutes, and the line cut. I apologize. We'll wait for his call, and we'll wait for his call again, inshallah.
Yeah, cut me off whenever you need to, Malik.
Okay.
My boy, Malik.
So, like you said, cognitive behavior psychology is one thing. Psychoanalysis is another thing. So there's differences of opinion within the field of psychology.
It's the thing is here. You start off with the nature of human beings.
Right.
Okay. If in Islam, human beings are considered pure. Fitra, right? Whereas in some therapies, we'll say, no, hold on a second. Human beings are greedy. But we also have the concept in Islam of greed. And all that.
Right.
So here's the thing. Don't place Islam and psychology into
separate
categories, okay? Because they're not equal, right?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, I'm sorry, brother, but we have a special phone call, and I don't want to leave the brother on the line. Brother Hossein, brother all the way from Canada. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Viewers Pulse, brother. Go ahead. And I believe maybe you could take the call, brother, because I think he's from Canada. Thank you for calling, brother. You are Brother Hossam?
I just wanted to say thank you to Wissam, actually. Just wanted to say thank you to Brother Mahdi for a great program. Thank you to you as well for an awesome program. Just wanted to quickly ask Brother Dr. Mahdi there, what kind of things are working in Canada and what kind of things would help also the Middle East in some of the successful interventions you're doing back in Canada.
Great, brother.
That's off to Brother Mahdi.
And brother, stay on the line with us, brothers. If you wanted to reply to him, he's on the line. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
People like you, Sadiq. That's what works is people who are able to build strong relationships. And I'll be honest, I've been working with youth for the last 14 years. And I've learned so much about youth, and then I still have so much to learn. If you want to know the one thing that has to happen, it's building relationships.
Okay.
In the show, we cover the importance of building relationships, the importance of nonverbal behavior. If the first time I ever met you, Malik, and you were just, you got this big beard and just, especially if it's the big black beard, and there's no smile, there's a message being sent there.
Yeah, right. There's
the other thing, there's so much in a smile. So, somebody once said, حُسْنُ الْخُلُقِ شَيْءٌ هَيِّن وَجْهٌ طَلِيقٌ وَكَلَامٌ لَيِّن. That good characteristics, or حُسْنُ الْخُلُقِ, involves an inviting face and sweet words.
Okay.
Now, if you can really make youth feel welcome, or anybody for that matter, you're miles above anybody who has he can have everything. You can be a celebrity, you can be so many things. But if you can make somebody feel like they belong,
right,
then you're in a really good position. You're creating space to shift, to help them develop some good change or development.
Yeah, of course, great points. And you know what? I'm 31 years old now, and I find myself, getting old. Like, as you get older, I still feel young. It's hard to stay in touch with the youth. You forget about the things that you went through when you were 14 or 17 or even 22. Yeah. So when I look at them, I feel like I'm becoming like my father. But we'll take a short break. You guys at home?
Lucky to be like your father.
Inshallah, because thank you. And you guys stay tuned for more. Viewers Pulse, don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Hoda TV's newest breakthrough into the world of Islamic media and academics, Hoda Academy. With courses in Aqidah, Tafsir, Fiqh, Hadith, and Arabic, and your most favorite Hoda TV scholars, Hoda Academy is your chance to enrich your mind and heart. Prices are affordable. The knowledge is authentic. The scholars are real. And the location is your home. Since Hoda TV's inception and the dream of Hoda Academy has been on our minds, after years of hard work, the dream is now here. Just like Hoda TV, Hoda Academy is a non-profit project, and your tuition fees go straight back into developing more courses. Knowing the basics of Islam is an obligation, but in-depth knowledge of our deen is reserved for those Allah guides to take the extra step. Your chance to become a student of Islamic knowledge is here, literally at your fingertips. Take a leap and join us today. Hoda Academy, your gateway to authentic Islamic knowledge.
Thank you. Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned, and welcome back to Viewers Pulse. I certainly hope you enjoyed that promo of Brother Omar doing Tech Talk. You guys don't miss Tech Talk Season 2. Brother, we're back, inshallah. And actually, the line cut, actually. But, before the break, we're talking about, how do you stay in touch with the youth? I mean, how do you stay connected? Because, that's something difficult. How do you do it?
Well, it depends on what you mean by youth, right? A lot of my work is with children, teens, young adults. Right? So I stay connected in 3 different ways with all of them, right? The relationship has to be genuine. So if I'm going to work with a 5th grader and pretend like, we think the same way and we both like the same things, it's not going to be genuine.
Right.
Likewise, when it comes to the teens that I work with, I'm not going to sit there talking about dope and, oh yeah, I know what it's like, and
Yeah, it doesn't
you know what I
make
mean? It doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
So what I do instead is I train those who have already bought in to the work that I do. Right?
Okay.
And the best word to use is love.
Right,
Those who love being with me,
Yeah.
being around me, learning from me, whatever it is, and a'udhu billah, I'm not trying to say that I got something, but what I'm trying to say is that they're just connected, they're plugged in.
Yeah, okay.
So what I do is I focus on them, and then I identify certain strengths within each one of them, so they can connect.
Okay.
But the relationship shifts, right? So for example, the teen boys, they know they're not allowed to play soccer in the youth center, right? We don't got a big place, but it's long enough to play soccer in, but you got computers, you got
Yeah.
TVs, you got all this stuff.
Okay.
They know they're not allowed to play soccer, but when I come back the next morning, I know they played soccer because the roof is broken, you got a
Right.
light smashed.
Right.
I turn the blind eye. Now that turn the blind eye, you know what I mean? I pretend like I don't look.
Yeah.
That's a connection, because they expect to get in trouble,
Right.
but I let them slide. So it's kind of like, whew, we got away from that. It's this exhilaration, right? It's positive anxiety.
Right,
You know what I mean?
So who holds them to account then if you do turn the blind eye? Your team.
Wow, if they break something in the youth center,
Okay.
I mean, now that this is live, I kind of hope they're not watching, but I'll never punish them for breaking something in the youth center. Now, if one of them, ends up, being rude or bullies somebody else,
Okay.
or you know what I mean, or makes somebody else feel uncomfortable, yeah, then we get upset.
Okay,
Then we
right.
got to take action.
Okay.
But man, if it's the youth center,
Right.
it's supposed to get broken.
Yes, it's
you
better
know?
that they're there, not on the street.
Absolutely,
But brother, what about your team? How many people do you have? What exactly are they doing? How do you train them? Where do you train them?
Well, you see, my team is kind of like a 2-year team, okay? So I work with people roughly around 2 years. And then after that 2 years, they're usually off to work somewhere else or with somebody else. Now, mind you, this is not a set structure, 2 years and you're out.
Okay.
But I'm finding over the last 14 years, it's usually these 2-year phases, right? Because, I mean, it's important for them to connect to other professionals, other shiuch, imams, and kind of, get a sense of what the real world's all about. I don't believe in leadership, right? I don't believe in being their leader forever.
Oh, okay.
I believe in leadership,
Okay.
right?
I like
So
that.
what ends up happening is, work with some guys. I've got a few of them right now. MSA president, for example, is
Cool.
one of the young guys. MashaAllah, he's going to do
Yeah.
some great work. I usually work with vice presidents of other clubs, train them. You don't want to undermine the president's role.
Right.
And so there's this continuous mentorship of the future leadership generation.
MashaAllah. That's great.
And mentorship is not just telling them what to do. It's enabling them. It's connecting them to resources. It's boosting up their profile, giving them references for scholarships, or if they want to meet somebody. This is a promise that I give them. I say, you know what? Write a reference letter, and I promise you, if you work hard enough, we'll make it true. Whatever they want to write.
Right. Okay, stuff like that.
Yeah,
MashaAllah.
inshallah,
Amazing.
so,
Brother, when we read in psychology books and study psychology, I took a few courses as an undergraduate. I don't know much about psychology, but you see a lot of Russian names, German names of psychologists. Do we see any prominent Muslim psychologists?
Well, I mean, that's a tough one, right? Because there are prominent Muslim psychologists. Is there prominent research on Muslims? I'd like to rephrase that question, right?
Okay.
Because, I mean, Ivan Pavlov could have been a Muslim for all we know.
Right,
you know what I mean? I mean, probably not, but you know what I mean?
I see your point, yeah.
It could. You don't know, right? With what gets published, it's a totally different world. So I'm sure, there's some very notable names in the Muslim world when it comes to Islamic psychology and therapy. What I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to start to compile research that focuses on Muslims. And so you have, to answer your question, you have psychology with Muslims. Okay, so psychology is what it is, and you just kind of try to force it with Muslims. You have psychology of Muslims, so you take the psychological theories and you start to apply them to Muslims.
And that's what you're doing.
Yes. At this moment I am, but this is not what I want to end with. What I want to end with is psychology and Muslims. What are all those things in psychology that are blind to the Muslim reality? This is what I kind of want to explore, and this is what we explore a little deeper in From Knowledge to Action. Because, I mean, just sneezing, right? And you're right upon me, when I sneeze, it's got something to it. Right. Saying Salaam alaikum wa rahmatullah and then being obliged to respond in a way. There's something there.
Yeah, mashallah.
Right? So what I hope to do is I hope to provide a framework as well as tools, practical tools, that Muslim and non-Muslim psychologists can use when they're working with Muslims.
MashaAllah. But that is amazing. I think it's a pioneer work. I want to get back to the subject after we take a phone call from a brother from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum, brother. Thank you for calling. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for calling, brother. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, sister. Thank you, sister. Alaikum salam barakatuh. Thank you so much for calling, sister. Go ahead.
Hi.
Yes, sister. Go ahead. You're live. Go right ahead.
I believe to meet you.
Go ahead, sister. Go ahead. If you can just mute your TV and speak up, inshallah, a little bit.
Hi.
Go ahead, sister. You're live, inshallah. Please speak up, sister. Go right ahead. Okay, I think the line is not that strong, sister. I'm sorry. If you could mute your TV or perhaps try to give us a call back on a stronger line, inshallah, I think that would be helpful.
I think it's important to remind the audience, if you don't mind, if you're okay with this, please don't call and ask about your problems. The only reason I say that is because sometimes we give you false hope, right? Oh no, do this. You know what? If I get, if I'm impulsive and I answer the question, chances are I'm ignoring your context, right? Okay. Context changes everything.
So it's like a psychological fatawa show sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we don't want to be doing that, right?
But brother, this idea, I think, of you said you want to create a framework for the psychology of Muslims or working with Muslims. This would be like a pioneer in the field, won't it?
It will. I mean, I've been doing some research. So, I mean, I have a master's in counseling psychology, right? Okay. I mean, I've got a Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology. I even got a Bachelor of Professional Arts in Criminal Justice. So, so it's all over the place. Now, a lot of my work is in prisons. My practicum was in a youth prison, so I got to see almost every type of disorder possible. And it's sad because you see how quick the onset of a disorder can kind of take its toll on a person's life, right? So, I'm not afraid of pathology, right? I'm not afraid of seeing people that have issues.
Right.
What needs to be understood, though, is that you got to be competent at what you do, right? A lot of times people will approach the wrong person, right? Now, you define the wrong person for yourself, okay? I'm not going to say this person's the wrong person to go to, but people approach the wrong person. You're right upon your Muslim brother or Muslim sisters that if they come to you for counsel, that you provide counsel, right? You provide competent counseling. Just because somebody did something doesn't mean it's going to apply here, right? Okay. The other thing is sometimes people will take a hadith or a verse from the Quran and all of a sudden they'll do tafsir on their own and apply that to counseling. Like, no. You know what you should do? You should do this because so-and-so did this and this. Right. And you got to be very, very careful.
It's like chaotic.
The other thing is you're dealing with people's lives here, right? Have you ever had a bad day and somebody came and tried to, fix the problem for you or something like that?
It got worse?
It only gets worse, right? So that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to add to the person's problem.
Okay.
If you don't know what to do, my advice is just listen and explain to the person, what can I help you with?
Yeah. Wow.
Rather than provide that, no, you should do this or this and this, and you know what I mean? And then you get even angrier.
Right.
Maybe sometimes adding to the person's problem.
Excellent points. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We only have a minute or so left, but if we can just talk about the program itself, how many episodes is it? What are the subjects covered? What is the format of the show? To give a little bit of insight to the program.
Well, it's interactive, right? Knowledge to Action is supposed to be interactive, meaning that when you watch it, you don't have to have any prerequisite knowledge. I'll cover that with you, right? We'll go through that.
Okay.
Hey, if you just want to kick back, relax, watch Knowledge to Action, learn a little bit about psychology, hear some really cool stories, no problem. Some of our participants cry during the show. You don't see it, I see the eyes, you know what I mean? Unless they were good enough to zoom in. So it is pretty emotional. It is very cognitive, very psychological. So it's going to make you think. And inshallah, my intention is that to help you help others.
Great,
right?
brother.
So if you're looking for a quick way of becoming an effective first response helper, then Knowledge to Action is where it's at.
Barakallahu feek, brother, and I certainly hope that they air that. I believe they'll air it in the month of Ramadan. And although we don't have any more time for this episode, I just want to reiterate, I think this is a great thing because the Muslim community needs professionals in every field. And I think sometimes our parents pressure us to become engineers and doctors, which is great. But I mean, this is something that's very beneficial as well. Did your parents pressure you as well to become, to go to a different field, to become an engineer, to become a doctor as well? Did you feel that pressure from your family?
No, well, my parents saw that I was responsible at a young age. When your parents see that you're responsible and that you're a man or a woman, then they're going to let you make your own decisions. But trust me, your parents are not trying to control your life unless they feel absolutely necessary to do so. So there's something wrong with you, not with them.
Barakallahu feek. Thank you so much. Well, contact information, facebook.com. I mean, do you have a Facebook page or something?
Yeah, Mahdi Kaskas, or try Aoun, 3OWN Calgary.
Okay, facebook.com/30WN Calgary.
Yeah.
Okay, inshallah. Do you have a Twitter or email or something?
Yeah, email would be info@3own.ca, and my assistant the coordinator will get you connected to me.
Okay, Barakallahu feek. Unfortunately, this program's over. I certainly hope to have you back on this program on your next trip to Egypt, inshallah. Thank you for your time. And you guys, I hope you enjoyed this program. Knowledge to Action, you don't want to miss it. I think it's going to be the first of its time, a unique program on Huda TV, something for everyone to enjoy in the family. So keep an eye out for that. And until next time, we leave you in the care of Allah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Come join us and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home. We'll talk about Huda. We'll talk about our way. Come join us and have your say. Let's talk about our way. Remember, you are not alone. Huda is the light in your home.